Hey guys, Eric and Joshua here. We're going to talk about Ant-Man with the thought that you've seen the movie already.
Spoiler warning.
Spoiler warning, because we're going to get into the nitty-gritty here. Some people like it, some people not so hot on it. I happen to really like it. Joshua had some issues with it. So let's talk about that a little bit here. Joshua, overall thoughts on Ant-Man?
Overall thoughts is the problem with the movie for me is that it's not really a bad movie. It's actually okay movie, but I thought it, and that's exactly the problem with it. I thought it played it too safe in a lot of ways. I thought, with Paul Rudd and the sort of the comedic edge to the movie, it could have been a little more like subversive, a little more experimental. But instead, it felt like they just give us a straightforward like superhero movie, and that's not what Ant-Man I felt should have been. And it just I feel like at this point in it's the 12th movie, is that right?
I believe so. Yeah.
The 12th movie in Marvel, they really need to shake things up. I was expecting more of like a Guardians of the Galaxy like feeling out of the movie, not of like that tone, but of just like surprises and the humor and everything. But I didn't get that. So while it was a serviceable movie, it was well put together. I thought that wasn't enough. Like I needed it to be like great. I needed something more.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'd say it's one of the more just pure enjoyable movies I've seen this summer. And I know sometimes people are knocking Marvel for like, kind of a similar tone to a lot of their films, but I do feel it's hard to nail really entertaining and fun, And this movie reminded me a lot of the first Iron Man. I'd say of all the Marvel movies, it's the most similar to that. And I kind of like that it was very scaled down, and it's hard to avoid the puns on Ant-Man. Sorry, but that it was a smaller
dare
movie.
you.
I know that it was a smaller movie. That the stakes were much smaller. I did think they needed sort of that palate cleanser after even Guardians, as fun and light as it was still an Infinity Stone and like the destruction of a planet at stake. So the fact that it was much smaller, I enjoyed, and because it really did work for me, has just. A fun, more of a frolic type film. But yeah, let's get sort of into the nitty gritty of it a little bit of like, what did you think of Scott Lang of Ant-Man?
I thought, again, there's nothing wrong with his story. It's a great story that instead of saving the world and another Infinity Stone, it's just a guy who wants to save his daughter, wants to care for his daughter. And I thought, again, that's good, but I thought I wanted more Paul Ruddiness to it, like, his brand of humor and kind of the humor that I thought Ant-Man was going to be, and maybe this is just my expectations weren't met. Is just that when the movie moves so fast, they didn't take time to sort of have like the awkward discussions about a character like Ant-Man ought to get into. Like when he met the Falcon, that was a cool thing because that's like a neat thing that you could see happening in a comic book. Two heroes meet, have a misunderstanding, and fight. And but I thought maybe that conversation could have gone on a little longer for them to really point out how like awkward this situation is and stuff like that. There were multiple scenes where I thought, oh, this is gonna be funny, and then I didn't even like chuckle or laugh because I didn't feel like they got enough time to like play it up.
I really like the Falcon sequence. I mean, I would have enjoyed more of it too, but I did really like what we got. And I really think that the stuff with Michael Pena, especially, who I kind of think steals the movie a lot. Him and Paul Rudd's character, they get to have those moments. Like I love when he's asking him, okay, tell me what we need to know about the heist, and he starts to tell him about like the first girl whose booby touched. He's like, this is information I have to know. Like those were the moments I thought that were like.
Funny when you say it.
Well, thank you. I thought it was like those were the great moments of like sort of this casual rapport of getting. A lot of this movie is set in like an apartment building and a house, and I actually like that again because these Marvel movies have been so big, which is great. But Marvel Universe is a big universe, and some of the corners are not as, giant. And so I think that, that worked really well for this movie. I will say one thing about Scott. I was talking with a friend of mine about this the other day. I felt like they kind of chickened out a little in the writing, and this felt like a rewrite of what his criminal past was, because it was, the fact that they kind of gave him a Robin Hood thing to it. But did he just do one crime or multiple crimes? Because he seemed like a very skilled thief.
Right.
So I thought that was a little murky,
Yeah.
And I kind of wish they'd just been, he's a very smart guy who was also a thief for a while. But I felt like they kind of pulled back there. But let's talk about the bad guy, because this is actually an arena where a lot of people, even a lot of us who like love Marvel movies, have said their villains not always delivering. In fact, a lot of times they don't deliver. So what did you think of Darren Cross?
Yeah. No, yeah. Most Marvel villains are just very generic, one note, often what feels like a waste of the actors' like talents. Christopher Eccleston in Thor: The Dark World. It's like, oh my God, he's gonna be the villain, and he was very like, the Dark World.
I think that's the low point for them as far as great actor, weak villain. Yeah.
Yeah. So and yeah, we just the Yellow Jacket really just didn't like bring it. Like it was very generic. Like, oh, I'm a corrupt, my father figure didn't love me, and now I will use my fortune to to do something evil. Like he had very like vague like evil goals,
right?
And it seemed like a bad idea just from anybody's perspective to sell these weapons like he was doing. And then just the fact that the reason for his evilness was that, and they'd say it like once, like, oh, he's been exposed to the PIM particles too much and it's affecting his brain.
Right.
And that's why he's evil. Mm-hmm. Like it's nothing like more than that. And it was too much, too generic. And then the end fight, while I wanted to be like, oh, this is really exciting, but again, it like didn't really do enough for me. Like he didn't. They say you need to like, the villain needs to become like superpowered in the end, to where they was like undefeatable. Then the hero finds a way, and he just sort of didn't. He just took his daughter hostage, which again is like, oh, super generic.
I see. I'm a mix on this, because on one hand I do agree with you. Again, he's fairly generic as far as motivations go and whatnot. I did think that Corey Stoll had fun with the role, because he kind of plays it pretty arch, which I thought was appropriate. Like be a little heightened. But I love the final fight. I did. I thought, once again, it was that thing of the final fight of this movie takes place in a little girl's bedroom. Mm-hmm. And so, which I think is very reflective of the fact that they wanted this movie to be small scale. There are not cities dropping from the sky. There's not giant armies. It's two very small guys fighting on a toy train track. And I really thought it was clever the way they did that. There was a lot of things in there that I agree. Some people said, oh, you can kind of see like echoes of Edgar Wright in there, which I agree with. Just the way that the shrinking and growing were used, having the train explode huge through the house. So and when she's watching from the closet and she sees like the little Yellow Jacket laser beams, and to cut from like the epic, So I really liked how they used him in the fight. Though I do think motivation wise and whatnot, he was very standard. Well, the big character though in the movie obviously is Hope Van Dyne. Who sort of created for the movie, sort of not, because they used a character's name from the comics, but she was very different. What did you think of her in the film?
I loved her character, but I thought it was, again, this is another more like meta Marvel thing. That she should have become the Wasp in the movie. It made zero sense to me to why, after she resolved her issues with Hank Pym, to not then say, okay, now I can suit up and go on this mission and have it be Ant-Man and Wasp again, which would have been a nice parallel for this movie, seeing what happened last time. They could have been even in the same situation, but this time Scott Lang decides to shrink down instead, so she doesn't have to. That would have been a great moment, but they're like, no, you can't do this. He said it's too dangerous. But the thing is, she was in a fake relationship, it seemed like, with Yellow Jacket, with Darren Cross, and so the thing is, Hank Pym was like, you can't be in danger and use the suit, but he'll let her be in physical and potential sexual danger so they can carry out this heist. I thought that was, what? Are you kidding me? Like, I couldn't believe it. And even though in the end, yes, in the post-credit scene, she does get her suit and she does the line, like, about damn time. Like, no, it was time earlier.
I don't know. I totally get the, like, why not just have her be the Wasp in this movie? But as far as the in-universe explanation, I was fine with, because it's not like, at the end of the day, it's Hank Pym being a jerk, but for protective, but a ignorant jerk about it, and at the end owning up to it. Of course, you're right, and it's one of the things that they could have written a line in maybe about the fact that she is still in danger. But I thought I could bite enough the specifics, like, this is how my wife died doing this thing, and so I don't want her to put on this suit because I'm equating the two things. So I don't know. I totally agree with you that maybe conceptually they could have just gone into this movie and she's the Wasp. We were talking beforehand about, apparently the Edgar Wright script actually had a much smaller role for her that they then did very last minute rewrites to put her more prominently in the film. So I don't even think realistically they could have then been like, and now she's gonna have a costume and superpowers just on the schedule they were on. But I do think she was a strong character. I like that she was clearly very competent, could teach him. And it's a very meta line when she says it's about damn time.
Yeah.
But I thought it worked very well. I was like, yes.
Whatever. She was great. She was better with all the stuff than him, with the ant thing or whatever, and she would have been better in the suit, and she should have been the Wasp.
Yeah, but I like.
And I'm mad about it.
When he says that thing about, like, I'm expendable, you're not. I mean, I thought that was a good explanation for why Hank Pym was being a jerk, even though he shouldn't have been. And
No, I mean, all heroes are put in danger, and again, she was in a different kind of danger anyway, so it didn't make sense. And
but Hank's like an older guy from a different generation.
What? She's a modern
outdated.
woman. He's an old man.
I know.
She can make her own decisions.
But yeah, so overall, like you thought it was okay.
It was an okay movie that I was very disappointed with.
Right. So I don't know. It really delivered for me. I went in not with very high expectations, but I just had such a good time watching it. I really enjoyed myself. I would. So that's our thoughts on Ant-Man. What do you guys think in the comments? Was it the worst movie ever or the greatest movie ever? No. Did you like it or not? Let us know. For plenty more on things Marvel and cinematic universes, keep it here at IGN.